a day. One of my positions I'm really passionate about and have been since like October, September was MindMed Inc. Now they're a Canadian company. You can't necessarily buy them if you only have a Robinhood account, and I have to pay an extra foreign settlement fee every time I want to enter or exit the position. But MindMed is a psychedelic stock that is listed on the Neo Exchange. It's a Canadian-based company, but it has the potential for some really great impacts. And so I think there's both a tactical play here and a strategic play. And really, I'm waiting on tactical play to see if it's time to get out. And then also, if I don't see a big enough bump on the tactical play, I will actually go and just hold on to the stock until we actually get through the purported clinical trials. So on to MindMed and what they are, what they do. They're a psychedelic medicine biotech company that aims to discover, deploy, and really just work on getting to the core of psychedelic-inspired medicines and therapeutics, focused on some really big issues. So Compass Pathways is a competitor of theirs. Celios also got listed in the same psychedelic ETF that was listed up in Canada last week. Revive Therapeutics is another stock I hold that is heavily focused on psilocybin treatment. MindMed, however, plays in ibogaine, DMT, MDMA, LSD, and psilocybin as far as potential therapeutics. Furthest along they are is probably the phase 2B FDA pathway trials on what they're calling Project Lucy, which is to see if LSD can combat severe anxiety, particularly PTSD and panic attack disorders. I think they have a valid point as a company in why they want to actually try and explore these therapies. Right now, the common way of treating PTSD and severe anxiety and panic attack disorders involves cognitive behavioral therapy sessions and generally some sort of benzodiazepine for acute episodes. Benzos are not very user-friendly. They can be overdosed on. They are really bad with their contraindications, which means that they don't react well with other medications all the time. So if you're on them, you're constantly having to make sure, like, okay, can I take Benadryl with a Klonopin, or could I, maybe go and have a glass of wine if I took a Klonopin 8 hours ago and the effective life of the Klonopin is 12 hours. These are all things that people who use these benzodiazepines are having to trade off on to adequately ensure their own safety while they're actually progressing through and maintaining some semblance of life, combating and dealing with these anxiety issues. For me, however, the real gem that I think MindMed has that the other competitors in the space don't is this formulation called 18MC. 18MC is essentially a non-hallucinogenic version of ibogaine. For those of you who aren't aware what ibogaine is, it's a West African traditional medicine that has been used with a lot of great success based on anecdote on helping people stop cold turkey who have opioid addictions, including heroin and Oxycontin, fentanyl, and Dilaudid. Apparently, going through the traditional West African ritual surrounding ibogaine is a really rough process to endure. I strongly discourage anybody who's interested from looking at some of the YouTube videos up on what exactly the people are experiencing when they go through the process of undertaking ibogaine. Frankly, it makes ayahuasca look like a sugar high. There's apparently some really near-death experience sort of stuff as far as the hallucinations go, and just a lot of feverish, sick, sort of rolling around hellish experience for a week, just to kind of cut you cold turkey. If MindMed can actually figure out a way to deliver something that can cut you cold turkey off of an opioid dependency like ibogaine does, but without, say, the really impactful hallucinogenic effects, I think that's something that might appeal more to the federal regulators, as ibogaine is currently scheduled as an illegal narcotic in this country. Most of these drugs, frankly, are. However, I think there's a greater recognition that with the way that the benzos have been prescribed in the past and the other alternative therapies and treatments out there for some of these disorders, we might have brushed off psychedelics too broadly and too quickly back in the late 60s and early 70s, and they might actually have some medicinal purpose. For those of you that are strategic long-term investors, that's the thing that you're hoping for. As any of you who have heard Tim Ferriss talk since basically 2014, he is a strong advocate for LSD and microdosing, and the Johns Hopkins University research. I think that there's more than just LSD at play here, though, which is why I'm into MindMed. Now, as far as Compass Pathways, probably the biggest competitor in the space that is publicly available for trade. Compass Pathways trades at roughly 10 times the price of MindMed. While it is available on the NASDAQ as an ADR, you are going to be paying for that premium. And I can't readily say, based on how early everybody is in the clinical trials, whether or not I actually think Compass fundamentally has an advantage over MindMed in terms of getting this right, and whether or not their particular focus is actually the correct one. Likewise, I have a position in Revive Therapeutics. Revive was a company that got crushed earlier last year when it turned out that they weren't actually going to be another Moderna in curing COVID-19, but they bought a psilocybin company, so they're heavily invested in that linearly. They trade between 46 and like 55 cents a share. Also require a foreign settlement fee, so I have a position in them, but I'm frankly going to probably hold out on them for quite some time. They're kind of my dark horse. If they pay out, it will be massive, but I'm not necessarily expecting a payout from Revive Therapeutics. Whereas MindMed, which if you do want to trade is MMEDF, I do expect a payout when they uplist on the NASDAQ, or when you actually start to see them break through to phase 3 clinical trials in any of these categories. Really, really, really hyped for, again, the 18MC vertical of the company, as well as Project Lucy. I think I've talked actually on Clubhouse the other day with a soldier who was actually able to be prescribed LSD or MDMA as part of a treatment for PTSD. And it's one of those things that I think, as long as it's not hurting anybody, and as long as we are seeing lesser dependency and lesser side effects than we would with the current traditional medicines, then this is kind of a win-win for everybody. We just have to get the regulators and those that have spent a lot of time with the war on drugs just a lot more comfortable with these medicines and with their therapeutic benefits. Anyhow, that's all I have for today. Good luck in the market. Looks like it's going to be a bloodbath at the open. But if you like this video, please comment or subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Make sure to turn on notifications. Anything you can to help me just get a sense that these videos are being appreciated and that there is some good feedback here.